Am I out of screen? Okay. Cool. Thank you. Can you flip the headphones around to where I can hear them? Put the microphones all in program one, please. Yeah. Cool. I'm still. This is Mondays with the Mayor, alongside St. George Mayor Dustin Yates and Councilwoman Patty Cook. I'm Brian Haldane. Sit in with you for the next hour answering your questions. Then there are a lot of them out there. How do you build a city? How do you start a city? That's why we launched this whole thing a couple months ago, I guess. Dustin, welcome back. How are you, man?
I'm doing wonderful. Before we get started, I do want to recognize the fact that today's Veterans Day.
100%.
Shout out to all of our veterans. A few St. George originals that I'd like to give a shout out on the air here, because I know they get a kick out of it. But Mr. Jim Talbot, who is one of the very original St. Georgians that dates back to when the school system started. Is a veteran of the United States Navy, and Mr. Norman Browning himself, a veteran of the United States Army. So our founder of the entire movement. So appreciate them, all the things that they did, and all the sacrifices all the veterans have made, throughout our country's history.
Very much so, and a great way to start us off this week. Speaking of Patty, welcome in. How are you?
I'm great.
Glad to have you in today. We got a lot to run through, and this is going to be a busy show, to say the least. By the way, phone lines are always open, 499-1073, 499-1073. If you have any questions about building the city of St. George, where do I go to for this? Who do I call for that? Just getting things started. It takes a little doing, so we are here for you throughout. Dustin, if we could start off by going back to where we left off last time we were on. Y'all have been in the process of creating and drafting the home rule charter, and we're there now.
That's correct. So I guess approximately about 3 months ago, I appointed a home rule charter commission, which is something that you have to do by law if you want to create a home rule charter. And for those of you all listening and wondering what the heck is a home rule charter, probably the easiest way to explain what it is really is it's your city's constitution. It's your foundation. It's your base document that kind of allows you to operate as a government. Without it, we would operate, and what we're currently operating under is the Larson Act, which is a document that dates back to 1898. So a lot of things in that document are good. A lot of them are a little bit antiquated. So we wanted to kind of put St. George in a position early on to at least have the opportunity as citizens to vote on their plan of government.
The writing of it is we're all good on that front. What are some of the highlights here? What are do you know some of the things that we can actually talk about that maybe stand out as why St. George is building itself different?
Sure. So, a lot of discussion went around how we're going to be governed, and to be honest with you, we kind of look back at what George Washington had said to the Constitutional Convention when our country was first started, and some of the things that he mentioned were that you have to create a document that's flexible, a document that has the ability to be changed with the changing needs of the people. You have to create a document that has checks and balances in it as well. And that was kind of the mindset that this commission went into when creating this document. Some of the highlights is that according to the Larson Act, we had to have a chief of police, and we'll still have a chief of police. His role will be a little bit expanded. We decided to have a chief of police and public safety, and for various reasons, mainly because we have so many public safety agencies that interact within the city limits of St. George. We thought that was important. The way that the council and the mayor will interact. So the council you'll have 5 geographical districts. You'll have 2 at-large spots, so for a total of 7 council people.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a mayor. But the mayor will look a little bit different. The mayor doesn't have the same unilateral strong power as you might see in the city of Baton Rouge or really pretty much almost every city in the state of Louisiana. This mayor will preside over the council, but won't have a vote on the council.
Mm-hmm.
However, the mayor will have veto power, both for ordinances as well as line item veto power when it comes to appropriation. But the mayor just can't go hire and fire whoever he or she pleases.
Right.
It all has to go through with the council, and the council's got to approve it. And if the council does something, the mayor essentially has to approve it. So we wanted to put something in play that kind of kept in mind the fact that we don't really know what's going to happen in 20 years or 30 years, but we want to make sure that we have some checks and balances in place.
We see this so often in government. In fact, we see this so often in government where you can get to on a local government level where you get to know the people who are running things at that time, and there can be a level of trust built in there. So you build things into policy, but you don't know who's running things next or 20 years, 30 years from now. It's important to build things out to where it's not connected to the current leaders.
That's correct. We tried to do this as blindly as possible. When I say that is not taking into names and faces into account.
Right.
Because you're right, and it's human nature. If you associate Patty with the council, that's what you're going to view the council as. But Patty will not be on the council for 100 years.
Right.
The council will look different eventually. The mayor spot will look different eventually. So it was really a fantastic group of people that were put together from all over the city of St. George, from a lot of different varying backgrounds. We had a lot of the public there as well. And the comments from the public really were, this is the way government should be.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something, not everything went without disagreement. There was a lot of disagreement along this process.
Well, it's going to sound weird, but you want disagreement.
That's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. But you know what? They disagreed without being disagreeable. Everybody had an opportunity to say their piece, and at the end of it, people voted on it. And if the vote passed, the vote passed, and that's what got put into the charter. So I'll be honest, there wasn't a time I left one of those charter meetings where I didn't almost have goosebumps, because it was just a unique governmental experience, really, for me and for most people that were there. And Patty was the vice chair in the committee, and they did just a wonderful job of kind of steering it to its completion.
Walk me through that a little bit, Patty, if you would. Jump into this conversation and talk about steering it and how hands on versus hands off, and I'm sure there's arguments you want to make along the way, but you don't dive in full force on everything.
Right. Well, so we put together this commission. It started about 3 months ago. We had a lot of meetings. We kind of knew where we wanted to go as far as we want the council more involved, making more decisions. The mayor still is very important. There's no doubt about that. But we want people to have a say-so in their government. And who do you communicate more often with? Not the mayor, but with your council person. So
Right.
you want to be able to contact your council person and say, I like this, I don't like this. We know not everything can get done, but at least we're outlining it is so great to be part of building a city. We are building our form of government of what we want. And not everybody agreed. We went around on some things, and some things were easy and some things weren't. but we came to
All right,
agreement.
without calling anybody out or anything, what were a few of the ones that maybe, there were sticking points that people had good points on both sides?
Well, I would say the main one was the role of the chief of police, because we will have one elected under the Larson Act, but we will go into our charter. So what does that look like when we already have the sheriff?
Yep.
We already have the St. George Fire Department. We've got EMS. We have things overlapping already that are already in place in St. George. So what is the role? Well, we need somebody to coordinate all that. So his role will be, or her, will be their role of coordinating all of those agencies. So we decided on, but just getting the title, it was chief of police and public safety, was, it was a lot of discussion. A lot of things went around with that. Will we have a paid police force? Ultimately, no, because we have the sheriff. We have always been covered by the sheriff.
Right. Yeah, and it's based off of y'all are required to have a chief of police, but even that might go away in the future because, there's talks of within Baton Rouge itself merging the police department with the sheriff's office. Have y'all even looked at what that? I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, but have y'all even looked at what that would mean for y'all's situation?
Not in our charter.
No.
Yeah. Because for us, we've always had the sheriff, which was a lot of confusion, talk of cutting the police department and such. We're under the sheriff. The unincorporated area has always been under the sheriff. St. George is under the sheriff. That's not going to change. It's not going to go away. In our budget, we have built in extra funds to pay for extra patrols, extra sheriff. But why build another police department? Whatever happens with the merger is going to happen, but I think we're still going to have coverage through the sheriff.
Yeah, and we don't think that's something that's going to happen overnight. I mean, look,
no.
on paper, everything works great on paper, right?
Yes,
but the mechanics of merging two huge, really completely different agencies together, if and when it ever happens, I'd have to imagine it would be a staggered process that would take years and years and years and years and years. In the meantime, having no paid police force was always something that we said from the very beginning. And that was really one of the important tenets of the charter document itself, is that we wanted to put into that document some of the things that Patty and I have been there from the beginning as well. Some of the things that we told the public was going to happen. We feel like it was a recommitment to the promise that we made them when they showed up to the ballots in 2019 and voted on. That's what they voted on. So we wanted to make sure that some of those things were enshrined in our city's constitution, and essentially, and really what that does, Brian, is that putting it in the city constitution doesn't mean it can never change.
Right.
But what it does mean is this: if it's going to change, it's going to go directly back to the people, which is exactly where it should go to.
And there very well may come a day where y'all look around and say, we do need a couple of cops out here, that aside from the sheriff's office, and you've left things open to be able to amend that.
That is correct.
We're coming up on we're at 5:17 right now on Mondays with the mayor, St. George Mayor Dustin Yates, and with us on Councilwoman Patty Cook with us as well. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to pivot over to start talking a little bit about budgeting and what that's going to look like. And quite honestly, we need to talk about December because there's a really, really big ballot item that the folks in St. George need to pay attention to. So take a quick break. Coming right back on Talk 107.3.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
All right, gentlemen, this is Emmett Smith on behalf of Depend, and I've got the perfect play. Run straight to your doctor's office for a life-changing catch. Because when prostate cancer is caught early, it's up to 99% treatable, and one blood test might be all it takes. And now through November, Depend is donating to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for select purchases. Talk about a great play.
From September 1st to November 30th, Depend is donating 40 cents to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for Depend Shield Guards Real Fit products purchased in the U.S. up to a maximum of $300,000 void in Mississippi.
Haldane here, and I'm fired up to tell you about a new podcast we've launched called Louisiana Business Weekly. And while I'm the host, it's definitely not my show. This is all about business owners sharing their stories, their journey, their successes, their struggles. It's called Louisiana Business Weekly, and you can find it at talk1073.com or anywhere you get your podcasts on demand. brought to you by Currency Bank, because of course a podcast about business owners would be brought to you by the bank for business owners. You can find them in Town Center or check them out online at currency.bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Does your business have trouble navigating Louisiana's complex tax code? Do you wish you could spend more time earning a profit and growing your business? Well, we have a solution for you. I'm Jason DeQueer, co-owner of Advantis Consulting. We're a Baton Rouge-based state and local tax consulting firm that offers customizable services from sales, property, and income tax to economic development opportunities, dispute resolution, and governmental affairs. Our team of professionals brings cross-industry depth, resources, and technical expertise in order to protect and enhance your bottom line.
Previous hailstorms have caused hidden damage to countless Baton Rouge homes. Ryson Roofing spots the damage, makes the claim, and replaces your roof. You pay only your insurance deductible. Never anything more. Call Ryson Roofing today and schedule your free inspection. 330-3513. RysonRoofing.com.
Hi, this is Gordy Rush, inviting you to elevate brand visibility and ignite customer engagement with the power of radio and digital advertising combined. Introducing Guarantee Media Digital. Secure your free digital audit now at GuaranteeMedia.com.
Hi, I'm Skip Bergman. You know, my players relied on me for guidance and advice, whether it was fielding tips or when to swing for the fences or the little gorilla ball. In business, that's where good bankers come in, like the business bankers at Citizen Bank and Trust.
That's right, Skip. This is Jim Ferguson of Citizens Bank. If you're a business owner, the bankers at Citizens are here to coach you up for success. Join our team today. Citizens Bank and Trust. Business bankers, business partners, member FDIC.
Slate clean, audit all of it.
Welcome back to Mondays with the Mayor with St. George Mayor Dustin Yates and Brian Haldane on Talk 107.3.
Mondays with the Mayor rolling right along. Hey, just a quick heads up. We are on Talk 107.3 FM's Facebook Live today. Normally we're on St. George's Facebook Live, but we had some software movement upgrades. These are upgrades, but we're experiencing some growing pains as a result of those upgrades. So if you normally follow us on, we're on St. George's Facebook Live, move over to Talk 107.3's Facebook. That's where you're going to get us right there. Put your comments up if you've got any questions for either Dustin or Patty as we move along. This is Mondays with the Mayor with St. George Mayor Dustin Yates. He's got Councilwoman Patty Cook with us as well. All right, let's talk budget. I mean, it is, well, I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse because we don't know how to prepare for the budget until after the election, which is why this upcoming election is so vital in St. George. In fact, let's pause for about 60 seconds to talk about that before we get into the budget.
Yep.
We had a presidential election last week, a week ago tomorrow, right? Coming up on December, I believe it's 7th, is we're going to have a runoff election for mayor president of East Baton Rouge, but y'all's 2% sales tax is on the ballot as well. How difficult is it to keep everybody dialed in, to keep everybody in the game, to say, no, it's great that you went in November. You're not done yet. You got to go back in December because this is vital to the very existence of this thing that y'all are trying to do.
Yeah, I can tell you why it's so important, Brian. And the reason why it's so important is that the city parish is yet to give us $1. Has yet to give us $1. And just like we wanted to become a city, or even way back when we wanted to become a school system, well, what did you have to do? You had to go become a city.
Right.
And how do we have to do that? We had to get a petition signed. We had to follow a democratic process, and we had to get our behinds to the ballot, and we had to vote. And that's exactly what the city St. George residents did back then, right? And now here we sit a little over 5 years later, and we're in a similar position where you've already voted, you already have your city, the Supreme Court already said that you're a real thing, and now the city parish is still refusing to give your money. Well, let me tell you this. You show up December 7th, you vote yes, they can't do anything after that. It's the same thing as the Supreme Court saying you're a city. There is no other course of action. There is no other delay. There is no other roadblock that they can put up. This is your money. Make no mistake about it, your money that they are illegally withholding currently right now. And in order for us to get it, you're going to have to go vote in December 7th. Vote, not a new tax. All it is a transfer of a 2-cent parish tax, and that 2 cents will then become a City of St. George tax. This is vital for the continuation of services in the City of St. George, and allow us to build St. George exactly the way that we know how.
Talking about the battle to get some money, we're going to get to that in our next segment. Let's dive into the budget. What are we looking at right now? What's the framework right now, and how far along the process are we?
So, a little bit about the budget. I'll jump
no
into yeah. We had to create one, and we'll be amending that budget probably 1,000 times before now and the end of the year. or the end of the fiscal, which will really be in June 30th. So as money comes in, and we're starting to see a little bit of trickle of dollars in. As you know, I think the last time we were here, we had just started doing our permits and inspections. We're also doing occupational licenses as well now. So we have a little bit of revenue that's just beginning to trickle in a little bit. And as that money comes in and as we start to pay for some of these services, that budget will get amended along the way. Obviously, if we had an intergovernmental agreement with the parish, if we had actual sales tax dollars coming in, the budget would look a little bit differently. And when that happens, and it's going to happen, whether it's in 10 days or 3 months or 4 months, the budget once again will be amended to kind of take care of those revenues that are coming in, the expenditures that are going out.
But, well, I mean, that being said, even if you don't have the revenue coming in yet, you have a pretty good framework of where it's going to go back out again. So how much of that can be, committed to the process right now?
Which part of the process?
The part of like knowing, knowing what it's going to cost to run the city.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, right now we're contracted to do, like I said, permits, inspections. There's some things that the city was supposed to continue, the city parish was supposed to continue, and they're refusing to. Things like code enforcement, things like off-site drainage assessments, things like that we're slowly picking up the cost for that. So we have enough money coming in with the occupational licenses and some of the permitting fees to kind of limp along, if you will, until those sales tax dollars start coming in.
This is a good opportunity to do exactly what we set out to do on this show, and that's answer all the little questions about building a city. What is code enforcement?
Yeah, code enforcement is anything from a blight. So I've already had some calls about that, and I want to say 2 or 3 different calls involving blight and any other type of codes, people that aren't abiding by the codes, building codes, things like that. So it's a big part of running an accountable city, obviously.
Right.
Why have rules if you're not going to enforce the rules, which I think was always a huge complaint with our residents in the city of St. George, is that, I have a neighbor over here that's clearly operating a business out of his backyard. Or I have a neighbor over here that, is doing this or doing that. And a lot of those issues weren't really being met either in a timely fashion or really not even being met at all. I had a conversation today with a guy, I won't tell you who it was, but he said, they really never did that in your area. And I said, well, then I guess it's easy to come to the conclusion that they're not going to start now, I guess.
This might be a better question for y'all's new chief of police, but are we seeing a lot of, let's say, you weren't a city before, but you are a city now, so I'm going to keep acting as if we weren't a city? Like that sounds like that's an example of someone who was able to get away with something for years, but it might be different now.
Yeah, I think you see a little bit of that. I don't know if it's necessarily, on the police side as much, but when it's convenient. When it's convenient for us to be a city, we're a city.
Right.
When it's not convenient for us to be a city, we're not a city. So you kind of see it cut both ways.
Patty, you're in on the budget right now. Are you just in a sit and wait in a holding pattern right now?
I'm amazed at the number of people, businesses, everything that are stepping to the plate. They're working as if they're getting paid, and that tells me there are a lot of people supporting St. George.
Tell me a story. Yeah, go.
Well, I mean, we can't pay the company that's doing our permitting right now, and they're doing it, and they've stepped up to the plate to do it. The company that worked with us on doing our charter, haven't paid them a penny, but they've stepped up to the plate. People that are going to help do the campaign to drive home that December 7th is not a new tax. It is a tax transfer. We have nothing to pay. Every council person, Dustin, chief of police, nobody's getting paid. It's like the grassroots movement that we started with years ago.
Yeah.
I think I met you 13 years ago when we started. Been through 2 petition drives. Great group of volunteers. People have done this because this is something they believe in and something they want.
Yeah.
They're not going to give up now. We're just going to keep moving forward. Money or not, we're just moving forward. We're going to build the city.
Well, you talk about the 2 petition drives, and let's not forget that the election was before COVID, and COVID was 400 years ago.
Right.
So I know everything's skewed since 2019 was the actual election.
I just wanted to mention this too, Brian, because Patty won't do it. Patty was our volunteer coordinator for all those years. And there's a lot of people that know Norman Browning and Chris Rawls and myself and whatever else. But if it wasn't for Patty and her husband that dealt with the volunteers, let me tell you, you think herding cats is difficult? Try to herd a group of volunteers into doing maybe one of the more tremendous things that they've ever been involved in. They ran all of our petitions. They sat there and hand-checked thousands and thousands and thousands of signatures. If it wasn't for Patty and her husband, we wouldn't even be here. St. George would not be in existence.
Well, thank you, Dustin. That's very nice. I'm going to embarrass my daughter, who is now 24. I think she was 11 when we started this. She said, I grew up with a little brother named George, and I hated him because he took all my parents' attention. But they grew up watching petitions and volunteers roll through our house constantly.
And that gets back to the root of it, though. I mean, this all started because of the want for a better education for children. That's where this whole thing started, like you said, that many years ago. We're due up for our next break real quick. Okay, you mentioned about the battle to acquire some dollars before Election Day when you have the potential to start earning on your own. That's going to take us into a courtroom. So let's break here. Come back. I want to talk about mediation with Baton Rouge on every facet of it. There's no detail too small. We will continue next. This is Mondays with the Mayor. St. George Mayor Dustin Yates joins us every Monday. This week, he's got Councilwoman Patty Cook with us. Our conversation will continue next. If you have any questions, hit us up via the phone, 499-1073. Although most folks have been a lot more comfortable putting their questions up on Facebook Live. For that, today we're back on Talk 107.3 FM's Facebook page. You can post your questions up there. I promise we will get to them before the show is over. Quick break. We'll continue next.
Now a Talk 107.3 traffic update from the Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service Traffic Center. At Shaw Bills, you can get up to $238 in savings when you buy a set of 4 new Select Michelin tires. This offer is for a limited time, and it's only at Shaw Bills.
Still some slowing after a breakdown was cleared on I-10 eastbound at Dalrymple, and if you're traveling from Lobdell out to Ascension Parish, it's a 4-minute delay. North on Bluebonnet from Highland to Airline, it's an 11-minute delay. And also west on Florida Boulevard from Denham Springs to Airline, a 5-minute delay. If you see traffic problems, dial pound 250, keyword total traffic. I'm Lisa Baque.
This report is sponsored by PureTalk.com. Stop overpaying for your cell phone plan. Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month on America's most dependable 5G network. Switch today. Just dial pound 250 and say keyword switch now to save 50% off your first month with Pure Talk.
This report comes to you from the Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service Traffic Center.
Hear that? That's not a happy sound. It's the sound of a problem that GR Griffin Construction can fix. Don't ignore the signs of roof damage. Their free inspections and estimates will prepare you for hurricane season and beyond. With GR Griffin Construction durable shingles, you will not only protect your home, but also potentially reduce your insurance costs. And with their financing options, a new roof is more affordable than you think. Visit grgriffinconstruction.com. That's grgriffinconstruction.com.
We are the soldiers of the Louisiana Army National Guard. We are your neighbors. We are your sons and daughters. While we serve part-time, we are learning valuable life and job skills. We are earning money for college, for trade and technical schools, and for certifications. We are proud to serve both our country and our home state. We are your Louisiana Army National Guard.
Sponsored by the Louisiana Army National Guard. Aired by the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Our governor, Jeff Landry.
While neighboring states have grown, hundreds of thousands of people have left Louisiana for better opportunities. Our people are just as hardworking and just as talented. It's our government holding us back, our failing tax system. It's too complicated, taxes too much, and it can't compete with other states. But we're going to fix that and put more money in your wallet.
Jeff Landry's plan? The largest tax cut in state history. A responsible code that gets our income tax to zero. Everyone pays their fair share. And special interest loopholes? Gone. Our tax code goes from one of the worst to top 10.
I promised that we'd have our families come back home. And fixing our tax code is a huge step forward.
Help Governor Jeff Landry move Louisiana forward. Learn more and join the effort. Visit fixourtaxes.la.
Paid for by Protect Louisiana Values.
Business owners, even if you've already explored the tax programs available to you in 2021 in the week of Hurricane Ida, are you sure what you have is accurate? Is it optimized for what's available? Many businesses leave money on the table, or worse, have overclaimed their benefits without even realizing it. If you had employees and took a financial hit, you could still be missing out on thousands, even hundreds of thousands in relief with no upfront cost. Visit cashida.com. We've helped over 1,000 businesses capture these tax benefits the right way. Cashida.com.
What does a tax session mean for small business? Let's talk about it. Hey, it's Haldane. Join me on the show Tuesday morning when Leah Long from NFIB hops on board to discuss that very topic. Also on the show Tuesday morning, we're going to recap the election with Jeff Crouere, host of Ringside Politics. Recap the local elections with Craig Godfrey from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. Baton Rouge Police Chief TJ Moore stops by, and we'll have a little DC Current presented by LABI when we talk with the recently reelected Congressman Troy Carter. Join me 6 till 9. They sound amazing.
Now, back to Mondays with the Mayor, with St. George Mayor Dustin Yates and Brian Haldane on Talk 107.3.
Yes, this is Mondays with the Mayor. Brian Haldane here with you. St. George's Mayor Dustin Yates is in with us. Councilwoman Patty Cook as well. Man, there's no way we can continue moving the conversation forward without talking about what's coming up on the mediation front. I mean, this is unfortunately a big part of the whole thing. So, what's on the horizon? What are we looking at coming up?
Sure. So next week we go to mediation. Got to the point where it didn't seem like we were making a lot of progress, so we kind of floated it out there to see if they would be willing to go into mediation with us. And they said that they would. Our only caveat, and they agreed to it, was that we didn't want a firm or an attorney from the Baton Rouge area. We wanted a fresh set of eyes on it. So it took a few weeks, but we eventually agreed on an attorney. I believe he's out of New Orleans. This is my first foray into the mediation world. I always tell people my legal experience is solely 100% through the eyes of St. George. I've never had any other legal experience other than this. Right. So now we can chalk up mediation to that. I believe they have some position papers that they file with the mediator this week. And then after that, there's some back and forth. And then, theoretically, and the hopes is that we show up on November 21st and we come to an agreement that we can all live with and we can move forward. And we were very close, I guess maybe about a month and a half ago before we kind of broke off talks.
Okay, so it was very close, but at the same time, though, and the Mayor Broom's statement made it sound like it was close, but the items that you weren't on, you were far off within those few items.
Yeah, so, I mean, their big thing was that, they want me to sign this document that has some language in there that essentially erases any and all liability that the city parish has, but they don't want to afford me the same courtesy. So they want me to take all their liability and wipe it off the table, but they want me to retain all of our liability. And that's not something that I can do. That's not something I would ever be willing to do. Essentially, kind of, almost kind of like recreating an incorporation date to July 1st of this year. And I've been very clear from the very beginning. The incorporation date is not a date for me to give. The incorporation date belongs and is owned by the residents of St. George. Whether it's legal or not, which I can make the argument that it's not, I would never arbitrarily just settle upon a day saying that, okay, well, I guess this is the day that is convenient. This isn't about convenience. This is about what's right, and that's just not right.
There can be a number of arguments for a number of individual days along the way. I've heard a number of arguments along the way. Look, you say it's not a date for you to say. Look, as an irresponsible radio host, I don't know why the certification of the election of St. George, why that date in particular wouldn't be the day.
Yeah, we've questioned that as well. That seems like the natural choice, but they have argued some other points, and really ultimately the point that we argue moving forward is that the incorporation date really doesn't matter for money right now. As far as, nobody can argue. I mean, there is no argument past June of this year when the rehearing was denied that sales tax dollars should start being transferred to the city of St. George.
Right.
and that's just something that hasn't happened. So, all I can tell them is that every day that goes by, and I'm sitting here watching the seconds tick down in front of me, their liability goes up. Those dollars will come back to us. It just depends on how much interest is going to be compounded on it, and that'll play a factor in the ultimate resolution.
How do you? I'm trying to word this the best without getting anybody in trouble, but is the effort just to wear you down and outlast, or is it? I mean, what was their return argument?
I think what you just said probably has some merit. It definitely seems like they've kind of taken a position that, well, we'll just wear you down and we'll outlast you, and eventually you buckle and you'll give in. And my only response to that is, clearly they don't know who they're dealing with here. I mean, they're dealing with a group of people that we've been doing this for over a decade.
Right.
So if I got to wait another 2 months in order to do what's right, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Is there a thought going in before you get into mediation? Is there a thought going in that this is going to come out with some kind of compromise somewhere down the middle?
That's hard for me to say. That's hard for me to say. I don't know. When we had the agreement and everybody had agreed on sides, I thought that was the compromise. There were some things that I bent on that I thought that we could that didn't really hurt us, but benefit the city parish. To be honest with you, and I thought that was my give on that end. So we'll see. I'm always cautiously optimistic.
This might be a better question to ask of the city parish, but do they even have the proper accounting of how much would come y'all's way, or is it just a general number? Because if you take all of unincorporated East Baton Rouge Parish, if you dial it back to 2019, did they keep a separate, and again, rudimentary question, and it might not even be applicable, but to know what sales tax dollars were generated within what would become the city limits of St. George. Do they even have that number separate?
I would say maybe yes or no. Do I think they know how much money it is? Yes. Do I think that they kept money separate from 2019 moving forward? That answer is unequivocally no.
Yeah.
So they know what's being generated in St. George. They have an idea. It's when I've had conversations with their finance department, and part of that agreement was that they were going to start giving us sales tax reports every month, leading up until the full transition was completed next year, that showed exactly how much money was being generated, sales tax-wise, in the city of St. George.
Have they given you all those reports?
They have not.
Okay. Well, because I would imagine, Patty, y'all would find those reports very enlightening to set the budget. Even if you don't have the money, you know what kind of money you're going to be dealing with.
It would be great if we could get some information, but hopefully something will come with the mediation. Don't know.
Have y'all been given timelines within for how mediation is going to play out, how long it's going to play out?
Yeah, like I said before, there's some things that happen, before we actually get in the same room together. On the 21st, the attorney that's doing the mediation has made it quite clear that he will stay as long as it takes. When I hear that in my head, I hear that we have a guy that wants to resolve the issue that day. Which, let me tell you something, Brian. This issue could be resolved in 10 minutes. It could be resolved in 2 minutes. So, I mean, I think everybody understands what the issues are. Hopefully, with a fresh set of eyes on the issue itself, maybe we can come to some type of resolution.
From mediation to payday, though, that's going to be a whole different story as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we settled on a mediation on November 21st and we came to an agreement, the soonest that we would get our sales tax dollars going back to July of this year would probably be January, because that, it'll take council action. The council will have to approve it, and what I was told is that if the council approves it on a Wednesday, on Thursday, the finance department would start cutting the check. So that's obviously still up in the air, but that was what was described to me as the plan.
I'll tell you what, we got one more break to go when we come back, just opening things up to a number of different questions. If you have questions, we're here at 499-1073. Of course, it's area code 225-499-1073. We're also live on Talk 1073 FM's Facebook page. Yep. Normally we're over on the city of St. George, but as we're upgrading software within the studio, we had to pivot just a little bit and to move us back over on the Talks page for today. So not to worry, we'll be back home in St. George next week as far as Facebook is concerned. So we got a quick break coming your way. We'll come back. We'll close it out next. This is Mondays with the Mayor, St. George's Mayor, Dustin Yates, in with us for one more segment after this on Talk 1073.
It's time for the Mathern's Magic Moment, highlighting the best thing we heard on Talk 1073 today.
State Senator Blake Miguez talking about when it comes to Louisiana and how we do business, this special session is only the tip of the iceberg.
Well, I'm telling you, it won't happen all in 3 weeks, but this is a large move in that direction. It depends on how much of this legislation gets out this special session will determine how fast we make that first move. But keep in mind, Brian, we're coming back in the spring for a fiscal session, and we're going to have an opportunity to get a second bite at the apple. A lot of the things I think that will pass this session may not be implemented until after the regular session. Very similar to how we approached the crime issue, where we had a special session on crime, and then we came back into the regular session and we cleaned all that up after we had the opportunity to see ways to improve. I think you'll see the same thing happen there. And look, the crime session was very successful, and Louisiana's crime issue is those crime rates are going down. So I think we'll get there. And if you look at other states like Tennessee and North Carolina, they didn't do it all in one session. Some went slow, some went very aggressively, but it all took a multi-year step. But the point is that our tax code now is ranked at the bottom 10%. Some of the changes, some of the proposals that the governor is offering, if were put into place or implemented in some way, shape, or form, will put us into the top 10%.
That was just a taste of the conversation with State Senator Blake Miguez, and is brought to you by the folks over at Mathern's. Right now at Mathern's, if you got the Mathern's Rewards app, Big Easy Shrimp, 1 pound bag, just $2.99. Boston Butt Pork Roast, $1.19 a pound. 12 packs of Coca-Cola products are just $5.99, and it all starts by downloading the app today. Oh, by the way, students, faculty, staff over at the Mathern's app, they're right there in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, directly across the street from Tiger Stadium. Here for you on game day, here for you every day. It's Mathern's.
The Gulf Coast has long been a key hub for Shell and the U.S. energy supply. With over 100 years of history in Louisiana, Shell remains committed to transforming our business. Our promise? To deliver lower carbon fuels and products. Shell is leading the energy evolution into the next 100 years. The creative thinking of thousands of Louisiana employees will power progress in our state and our future. Shell is the rhythm of Louisiana.
Honesty, integrity, attention to detail, and dedication. Lewis Mechanical Contractors has been providing top quality plumbing services to Baton Rouge since 1960. Your peace of mind was their business then and still is now. Whatever you need, repair, installation, replacement, they are the area's trusted source for all plumbing jobs, big and small. Call 927-6520. That's 927-6520.
It wasn't written that
It's
way.
Eric Erickson. You're listening to Talk 1073.
And unless you're reading
This is Mondays with the Mayor, with St. George Mayor Dustin Yates and Brian Haldane on Talk 1073.
One segment to go here on Mondays with the Mayor, St. George's Mayor Dustin Yates, and with us also Councilwoman Patty Cook along this week as well. Man, there's less than a month to go until y'all are on the ballot. This is gonna be a big day. I don't feel like this could be talked about. So we were talking during the break about the Baton Rouge Fire Department getting a raise on the last ballot, and how horribly that was worded. I always, and I know scared money don't pay, but I always get a little timid when I see things on ballots, and I don't think this one's even out yet as far as the Secretary of State's of the Go Vote app. But when it comes down to the wording, fighting through the wording to get the message through. And I know that y'all have a singular focus here of making sure people understand this 2% sales tax is not a new tax. This 2% sales tax is how you're going to fund the city that everyone signed off on to just get built. Like this, there's so much riding on this that I would hate to see something like poor verbiage on a ballot run into a problem for y'all.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we actually received the language maybe about a week or two ago from the Secretary of State's office. I'm happy to sit here and tell you that it's worded very well.
Okay.
It's very clear on what exactly it is that we're trying to do, and we get those questions all the time, Brian, from really just concerned residents that want to make sure that it passes.
Right.
Can you word it this way? Can you word it that way? And there's some things that you can't do. But to me, it's very clear. We have a public information campaign that'll be kicking off at the end of the week. We'll have digital. They'll have digital ads. They'll have radio ads. We'll have mailers that'll hit your mailboxes, and it will explain everything, quite well, I believe.
Yeah, you want to leave nothing to question, and regardless of how people vote, you want to make sure that they, at the very least, know what they're voting for.
That's correct. It's just an education.
Yeah, 100%. Now, beyond Election Day, can we start to look ahead to next year a little bit? I know Mayor Broom has already put forth a budget proposal. I know this is her first go at having a budget proposal without St. George being a part of it. What were some of your takeaways from her initial proposal?
Yeah, so Brian and Patty can attest to this as well. Since the very beginning of St. George, we were essentially vilified. People would tell us that we were number one on street corners all the time. You remember that, Patty? Using particular fingers. And we were going to be the great destroyer of Baton Rouge. People were going to lose their jobs, lose their retirement, lose their insurance. And won't you know that the first budget that comes out that reflects St. George, the budget reflects absolutely zero people will lose their jobs, that's great. That's wonderful to hear, right? Are there some budget cuts in some departments? Absolutely. And some of them are a little bit odd to me, and maybe I'll touch on that in a second. But we have said this from the very beginning, okay? There's plenty enough money in the city parish. They're going to figure it out. They're going to figure out how to absorb some of these things. They're going to figure out how to make this work. And essentially, the other side, I don't know any way to say it. They lied. They lied. They lied in district court. They lied in appellate court. They lied in the Supreme Court. And worse than all that, and this is for people that work in the city parish. These are people that live in the city of Baton Rouge. They lied to you, okay? They created this unbelievable amount of anxiety and fear, okay, in the people that work there and the residents that live here, that when the big bad wolf St. George comes to town, everything's going to be uprooted. Everything's going to change. There's going to be mass layoffs. There's going to be all this devastation, and it's just not reality. It just isn't. And the proof is in the pudding in this budget that was just given out. Not one single person was laid off. Not one. Okay? And some of the biggest budget hits, and we can make whatever bridge you want to make on this. I've made a little bit of one, and I'll share it with you. But it's odd to me that some of the largest hits are in public safety. In public safety. To me, being a mayor, public safety is priority number one.
Should be, yeah.
Priority number one. And you're telling me that we're going to cut the Baton Rouge Police Department, the Baton Rouge Fire Department, the District Attorney's Office, okay? And we're not going to cut other agencies, or there's going to be minimal effects? To me, that's absolutely ridiculous, okay? First off, it's ridiculous because the Baton Rouge Police Department and Fire Department never provided services in St. George.
Right.
Okay, so that's number one, all right? Number two, they do a great job of providing services inside the city of Baton Rouge. And this idea that those are the agencies that we're going to go after, and those are the agencies that are going to take the biggest financial hit, to me is shameful, quite honestly, Brian.
I remember when I first learned, and this was before Chief Morris was chief. This was when Chief Paul was still here. When I first learned that the police department was going to take a hit based off of the existence of St. George, and I'm like, that doesn't. Why? Why? You're not in St. George. You don't serve St. George. You don't patrol St. George. There's not a single officer that is going to make an arrest in St. George. That there's nothing about that makes sense from start to finish.
Yeah, really, absolutely nothing. I can see where Public Works, and I could see that some of these other entities that were providing services. Brian, they took less of a hit than the Baton Rouge Police Department.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, and these aren't Dustin's numbers; these are numbers that are in her proposed.
Well,
budget.
how much of that is based off of where the revenue comes in? This is probably another question for the city parish, but based off of where the revenue comes in from, because we're so tied at the hip to millage after millage after millage, and not sales tax. sales tax is what's going to be going over to y'all, after the December election. So if that's the way the budget's built out, then they need to take another look at how they get from point A to point B.
Yeah, I can't answer that question.
I know.
What we're talking about is sales tax revenue. All I'm saying, Brian, is that at the end of the day, the sky didn't fall. Right. The city parish is still here. They're still operating. They didn't have to lay anybody off. In fact, if you look at their entire budget globally, including everything, which is about a $1.15 billion budget, you know what the total deficit was for the entire budget from 2024 to 2025? $491,000, less than 0.5%, wow. 0.04% of a negative downturn. So, look, the money's always been there. Will they have to be creative with some things? Sure. Will they have to change some things moving forward in the future? Sure. But the important part here is that we've been made to look like the bad guy for all these years. And the fact is that all we ever did was tell you the truth. All we ever did was tell you the truth. Whether you lived in St. George, whether you lived in Baton Rouge, whether you lived in Central Zachary or Baker, we told you the truth. We told you what we wanted to do. We told you how we were going to do it, and we told you that it wasn't going to devastate the city of Baton Rouge. And here we are today on a great Veterans Day for the United States of America, and we're here telling you that they didn't tell you the truth. And now it is here, black and white in the budget, plain for everybody to see. And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
Because we need to know.
Yeah.
Before the numbers start getting very real, and before you get too far down the road, if something needs to be amended. Look, and I'm saying this as a resident of Baton Rouge. I live within the city limits of Baton Rouge. So, if there is something wrong here, vilification aside, if the numbers aren't right, I would like to know that.
Sure.
That's going to affect my tax dollars, to be sure. But when you start to dive into, the budgetary items, where they're getting their money from, how their money comes in, I think is it plays so much of a factor here because, like, for example, there were two separate millage items on the last ballot for Breck alone, and they both passed. And I'm personally a fan of Breck. I happen to like a lot of what they do, but that's something that's not funded by sales tax.
That's correct.
And the library is of a similar fashion. And when you pull up your property taxes, I mean, it's line item after line item. The property taxes look about as long as the petitions to file St. George in the first place. So, I mean, it's just it gets item after item. It does start to stack up, but then you look at what's left, and that's where the sales taxes would come in. So, man, that's a question of priorities, isn't it?
Sure, absolutely.
We gotta get out of here in a little over a minute from right now. In this last minute and a half or so, I want to go back to Patty real quick. Talk about your next steps once you see what's coming as a council person, not just the budgetary items, but as a council person. What are you most looking forward to over the coming months?
Well, tomorrow we will put forth the charter to the council that we've worked on, that they will vote to send to the voters. We will have an election in March. End of March for the mayor, the council, which we will go to 7. So we've created that. No, will we do 5? We'll have 5 for sure in our districts. They're done.
Yeah.
We've redone our districts. They're wonderful. I really like how they came out. Worked with a great demographer, got all that done. And then still setting up our ordinances. We're still setting up ordinances. There's a lot of things that have to be done. But just looking forward to moving forward, which we're not letting the money issue stop us. We're still moving forward.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know it's kind of touch and go. You have to every step is measured to be sure, but along the way, that's got to be the drive. Closing thoughts before we get out of here, Dustin.
Yeah, my closing thoughts are this: December 7th. Yeah. December 7th, residents of St. George and East Baton Rouge Parish have an opportunity to go to the ballot. They have an opportunity to go to the ballot and vote for the transfer of the 2-cent sales tax. They have an opportunity to vote for the mayor president. I strongly suggest they look at everything that's taken place over the last 8 years. Look at everything that's taken place with the city of St. George. It's an unbelievably important thing to do. Don't think that you just voted on the president and you voted in the primary and your job's done. Our job is not done. Show up on December 7th and have your voice be heard.
Yeah, absolutely. And you always see drop off after a presidential election. Turnout just tends to fall to the wayside. But this is one that if you live within the city limits of St. George, you do need to make your voice heard on December 7th. All right. He's St. George Mayor Dustin Yates. She's Councilwoman Patty Cook. I'm Brian Haldane. You've been listening to Mondays with the Mayor right here on Talk 107.3 FM.
Moon Griffon.
I'm hoping that these nuts realize that a lot more people are watching now and a lot more people are paying attention. And the